My roommate charged me $800 a month for air quality. Then I found my room on Airbnb. There's a special kind of betrayal that doesn't involve shouting or slammed doors. It's the quiet, calculated kind that shows up in your Venmo requests with labels like oxygen surcharge and ambient lighting usage. For 8 months, I lived with Mara, a woman who presented herself as meticulous, eco-conscious, and financially savvy. She kept spreadsheets for everything: grocery splits, toilet paper rolls, even minutes spent in the shared bathroom. But when she started billing me $800 a month for premium indoor air quality, I knew something was off. I moved out as soon as I could, swallowing thousands in unjust fees just to escape. Then, while scrolling through Airbnb one rainy Sunday, I saw it. My old bedroom, my desk, my vintage lamp, all listed under her name for $149 a night. And the reviews were glowing. That's when I realized I hadn't just been overcharged. I'd been part of her business model. Mara and I met through a mutual friend who swore she was the perfect roommate. Organized, clean, vegan, and apparently allergic to noise, dust, and chaos, which as a grad student working 2 part-time jobs, I figured meant she'd appreciate someone quiet and responsible. We signed a standard year-long lease on a 2-bedroom apartment in Portland's Alberta Arts District. Rent was split evenly, $300 each. Utilities would be shared. It all seemed fair. The first red flag came 3 days after move-in. Mara left a printed sheet on the kitchen counter titled Household Resource Allocation Agreement. It wasn't part of our original lease. Underneath neat headings like water consumption, refrigerator shelf allocation, and bathroom ventilation usage, there were line items with assigned costs. One stood out: indoor air quality maintenance, $200 a month. I blinked. "What's this?" I asked when she walked in from her yoga class. "Oh, that," she said, sipping her green smoothie. "I invested in a medical-grade HEPA filter and an ozone purifier. The air in this neighborhood is terrible for my sinuses. Since you benefit from cleaner air too, it's only fair you contribute." "I didn't ask for an ozone purifier," I said gently. "And honestly, $200 seems steep." She tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. "It's not optional. Breathing clean air is a shared responsibility. If you don't pay, I'll have to restrict your access to the living room during peak purification hours." I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. The next day, she sent a Venmo request for $200 labeled Q1 Air Equity. Reluctantly, I paid it, chalking it up to eccentricity. Maybe she'd forget about it next month. She didn't. Instead, the fees multiplied. By month 3, I was being charged for Wi-Fi bandwidth tiering, $75, natural light redistribution, $50 because my room got more sun, shared wall sound dampening, $100. She claimed my footsteps vibrated through the drywall, and aesthetic cohesion contribution, $125 for matching throw pillows she'd bought without consulting me. The total monthly house fees hit $800. I tried reasoning with her. "Mara, none of this was in our lease. Legally, you can't just invent new charges." She pulled out a binder thicker than my thesis draft. "Section 4.2 of our verbal understanding implies equitable cost distribution for all shared environmental enhancements. Also, I've documented every purchase and hour of research. You're welcome to audit it." I did. The binder contained receipts for a $400 air purifier used on eBay, screenshots of Amazon reviews for vibe cleansing crystals, and a hand-drawn graph showing how my presence increased her stress cortisol levels by 17%. It was absurd, but also strangely compelling in its detail. My breaking point came in month 6. I'd just deposited my paycheck when Mara slid another invoice under my door. Emergency emotional atmosphere stabilization fee, $300. Apparently, I'd disrupted the home's energetic field by crying after a tough exam. That night, I called my landlord. He sighed. "Look, unless it's in the lease, she can't force you to pay. But if you break the lease early, you'll owe 2 months' rent." I couldn't afford that. So I stayed, paid the fees, and started saving every spare dollar for an escape fund. In month 8, I landed a remote internship that included a housing stipend. I gave Mara my 30-day notice. She didn't argue. In fact, she smiled. A small, satisfied smile, and handed me a final bill. Lease termination energy rebalancing, plus security deposit processing surcharge, $150. I paid it. I just wanted out. Moving day was quiet. She helped me load boxes into my U-Haul, offering unsolicited advice about efficient packing algorithms. As I drove away, I felt lighter than I had in months. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through Airbnb, looking for a weekend cabin near Mount Hood. Out of habit, I typed in my old neighborhood. A listing popped up. Serene Artist's Loft in Alberta Arts. Private room with vintage charm. The photos were unmistakable. There was my mid-century desk, my thrifted velvet armchair, even the framed print of David Bowie I'd hung above the bed. The host? Mara S. The price? $149 per night. I clicked on the reviews. "Such a peaceful space," wrote one guest. "The air smells like eucalyptus and clarity," said another. One reviewer mentioned, the thoughtful host who provides organic tea and a detailed house manual. I scrolled down. The calendar showed bookings almost every night since I'd left. At $149 a night, she was making nearly $4,500 a month. More than double what she'd charged me. But the real kicker? The listing description read, "Formerly occupied by a dear friend who moved abroad. Everything you see is original to the space, curated with love over years." She hadn't just sublet my room. She'd erased me from it. I sat back, my coffee gone cold. Anger flared, then settled into something colder, sharper. This wasn't just greed. It was theft of my space, my belongings, my dignity. I opened my laptop and logged into my old cloud storage. Before I'd moved out, I'd backed up everything, including photos of my room, receipts for my furniture, and screenshots of our original lease agreement. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I smiled, because now I had proof, and Mara had no idea who she'd really been renting to. I spent the next 48 hours in a state of focused, methodical investigation. The initial wave of anger had crystallized into a cold, hard determination. I wasn't just going to leave this alone. I was going to dismantle her operation piece by piece. First, I needed to understand the legal landscape. I pulled up the municipal code regarding short-term rentals in our city. The regulations were incredibly strict. To rent out a room on a platform like Airbnb, the host had to either live on the premises as their primary residence and obtain a specific homeowner's permit, or secure a commercial short-term rental license, which required rigorous safety inspections and neighborhood notification. Mara was doing neither. She was operating an illegal, unpermitted hotel out of our leased apartment. I downloaded the municipal code, highlighted the relevant sections, and saved the documents to a secure, encrypted folder on my laptop. Next, I turned my attention to the people who had been deceived. The platform doesn't allow you to message past guests directly, but the reviews are public, complete with the guests' first names and profile pictures. I cross-referenced their names and photos on professional networking sites and social media. It didn't take long to find 3 recent guests who lived within driving distance. I drafted a careful, polite message. I introduced myself as the original tenant of the apartment, explained that my former roommate had listed my personal belongings without authorization, and attached photos of my original lease alongside the furniture receipt. I didn't ask for money or demand they leave a negative review. I simply asked if they would be willing to speak with me. 2 of them ignored my message. The third, a graphic designer named Elias, replied within the hour. He was absolutely appalled. He told me Mara had charged him a premium wellness fee at checkout for using the curated meditation cushions, which I immediately recognized as my own expensive yoga bolsters. Elias agreed to help me gather concrete proof. We devised a careful plan. Elias would book the room for the following weekend under his own name, acting as if he were returning for a second visit to the city. His objective was to wear a discreet lapel microphone and subtly guide the conversation toward the origins of the furniture and the nature of the wellness fees. I needed her to explicitly claim ownership of my property and admit to charging unauthorized fees on audio. To ensure I had visual confirmation, I also enlisted my friend Sarah, an aspiring documentary filmmaker, to pose as Elias's travel companion. Sarah would carry a high-definition camera disguised as a portable power bank. The night before Elias's arrival, I sat at my new, much smaller desk in my new, much quieter apartment, reviewing the checklist. My heart was beating a steady, heavy rhythm against my ribs. This wasn't just about getting my security deposit back. It was about accountability. Saturday afternoon arrived. Elias and Sarah texted me from the lobby of our old building. "We're going up," Elias wrote. I watched the minutes tick by, staring at my phone screen. At exactly 3 o'clock, Elias sent an audio file. I put in my earbuds and pressed play. The audio was remarkably crisp. I could hear Mara's voice dripping with that familiar, practiced serenity. "Welcome back, Elias. I'm so glad you chose to experience our space again." Sarah chipped in, her voice playing the part of an impressed tourist perfectly. "This place is gorgeous. That vintage brass lamp on the desk is stunning. Did you restore it yourself, Mara?" There was a pause, just a fraction of a second too long. "Yes," Mara replied smoothly. "I found it at an estate sale and spent weeks refinishing the base. It's a signature piece of my personal collection." I closed my eyes. She was lying right to their faces. "And the meditation cushions?" Sarah asked. "Oh, those are part of my holistic hospitality package," Mara said. "I import the buckwheat hulls directly. That's actually why there's a $50 environmental wellness fee added to your final bill. It covers the carbon footprint of the materials." Elias kept her talking, asking about the dear friend who moved abroad and the aesthetic cohesion of the room. Mara wove a complex, entirely fabricated tapestry of lies, claiming she had designed the entire space from scratch. The recording was perfect. It was a confession of fraud, theft, and illegal business practices, all captured in high definition. I was about to text Elias to wrap it up, but then I heard a new sound through the earbuds. It was the distinct, heavy thud of a fist pounding on the front door of the apartment. Mara's voice on the recording spiked in irritation. "I wasn't expecting anyone. Excuse me for a moment." I heard her footsteps recede, the jingle of the deadbolt, and the door swinging open. Then, a voice I recognized all too well echoed through the audio feed. It was my landlord, and he didn't sound happy. "Mara, we need to talk about the unauthorized structural modifications and the noise complaints from the neighbors." The heavy thud of the landlord's fist on the door had faded into a tense, suffocating silence. Through the crisp audio feed, I heard the jingle of keys and the squeak of the deadbolt sliding open. Mr. Harrison, our landlord, stepped into the foyer. I could hear the rustle of stiff paper. He was holding a printed copy of our original lease. "Mara, Section 12 clearly states no subletting or commercial use of the premises without prior written consent," Mr. Harrison said, his voice carrying the flat, weary authority of a man who had dealt with too many tenant disputes. "My property manager has logged over 40 unique smart lock entry codes in the last 2 months. You're running a hotel," Mara stammered, her usual polished cadence fracturing. "It's just friends crashing. House guests. It's not commercial. I'm just helping people find affordable stays. House guests don't pay a wellness fee at checkout," Mr. Harrison replied, "and they don't change the digital lock codes every 3 days. I need to see your short-term rental permits." This was my cue. I picked up my phone and dialed Mr. Harrison's number. I knew he had my contact info from the move-out inspection we had done weeks ago. "Mr. Harrison," I said when he answered, keeping my voice calm and steady. "This is the former tenant from apartment 4B. I'm currently listening to your conversation with Mara through a friend who is inside the apartment. I have the audio recording, the Airbnb listing, and the municipal code violations fully documented." Silence on the line. Then Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. "Put it on speaker," he told Mara. I hit the button. "Hi, Mara. It's me." "You," she breathed, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and panic. "You set me up." "I gathered evidence," I corrected gently. "You stole my furniture. You lied to paying guests, and you're violating your lease and city ordinances. It's over." Mr. Harrison took back the phone. "Mara, you are in material breach of your lease. I'm issuing a notice to quit. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises, or I'm filing for formal eviction. Furthermore, I'm keeping your entire security deposit to cover the deep cleaning and lock replacement." The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of administrative justice. I didn't gloat. I just executed the plan. First, I submitted a comprehensive report to the platform's trust and safety team. I included the audio file of Mara claiming my furniture as her own, the receipts proving I purchased the items, and the municipal code proving she lacked the required permits. Within 6 hours, her listing was permanently removed. More importantly, the platform froze her host account. Their terms of service strictly prohibit illegal activities and misrepresentation. They not only refunded every guest she had ever hosted, but they also clawed back the payouts she had already received. She was left with a zero balance and a permanent ban. Next, I filed a formal complaint with the city's short-term rental enforcement division. Because she was operating without a license and failing to pay the required transient occupancy taxes, the city audited her earnings. The resulting fines were staggering. She was penalized for every single night the room was rented out illegally, plus back taxes and interest. The total municipal fine exceeded $15,000, but I wasn't done. I reached out to the 3 guests I had contacted earlier, including Elias. I provided them with the police report number and the documentation from the platform. With my proof that the wellness fees and environmental surcharges were entirely fabricated and not authorized by the booking site, they all filed chargebacks through their credit card companies. The banks ruled in their favor, citing merchant fraud. Mara's personal bank account was hit with a series of forced reversals, dragging her balance into the negative. A week later, I received an email from Mr. Harrison. He apologized for not catching Mara's behavior sooner and thanked me for exposing the liability. He also included a check. It was the full amount of my original security deposit, plus an additional $800. "This is to compensate you for the vintage furniture she refused to return," he wrote. "She claimed it was hers, but your receipts proved otherwise. I had to buy the items from her to avoid a legal dispute, and I'm passing the cost to you." I stared at the check, a profound sense of closure washing over me. I used the money to buy a beautiful brand new velvet armchair for my new apartment. It didn't have the history of the old one, but it was entirely, undeniably mine. As for Mara, the fallout was total. The combination of the eviction, the massive city fines, and the credit card chargebacks wiped out her savings. I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that she had to move back in with her parents 2 states away. Her meticulously curated online persona collapsed when the guests she had scammed left detailed, factual reviews on consumer protection forums outlining her fake fees and stolen property. Sometimes people think revenge has to be loud. It has to involve a dramatic confrontation or a public spectacle, but true justice is often quiet. It's the steady, methodical application of rules and consequences. It's the sound of a spreadsheet balancing out, of a fraudulent account being deleted, of a lease being enforced. I didn't need to yell at Mara or gloat on social media. I just needed to let the system work. Now, when I sit in my new living room, the air smells like fresh paint and my own choice of candles. There are no hidden fees, no ambient lighting surcharges, and no one monitoring my oxygen consumption. Just peace. And honestly, the air quality has never been better.